also so she could discuss whatever that other issue was with those tickets.
Okay.
Sounded like more of something over here that wasn't checked or it created like a false alert or something. So we'll figure it out. Plus Lori volunteered to, if we can get those tickets back. She has
I didn't get a chance to say hello to you.
Yeah, I kind of sneaked in and
You really did, though.
See what's going on.
You're quite sneaky when you want to be.
cut that number down.
I did get your email.
That sounds
Thank
great.
you for letting us know.
We'll figure something out.
No
Perfect.
worries, we completed it. Well, I understand, so
Good.
no worries.
Good, good, good. I don't think I'm not going to show up to Tustin because I really like Tustin.
It will be different events. We have like at least 3 more, so.
Well, if anybody helps, let me know.
For sure.
Appreciate you.
We do have the barbecue, which you guys know, I come every year.
What is it?
We haven't had a date, but it'll be in July.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just like at a regular basis.
If I can get win there, do I win a prize?
It's on the legislative session.
Now you do. Now you do. Come on, Quinn.
How are you doing, Councilman Glover?
Hello, how are you?
Doing well, thank you.
Good.
You were blowing off your COVID steam.
Good. No,
Ooh, our church feel weird tonight.
yeah, every time someone
It's
says
so.
that.
I have my coat. I'm like literally tucked in over here.
Oh, Lisa's here.
I mean, I'm not Mariah.
I'm just gonna stay like this until the meeting starts.
If you look over and I have my sweater up over my head, then just know it's real cold.
And I'm sure she politely
Is it just you tonight, Mom?
She's like, this is actually the reason I
I'm
love
gonna take her off once the meeting starts.
I think you should just roll with it. Are you presenting tonight? Because that'd be even better.
speed dating. So, I apologize to all of you guys in
cool.
advance. That is going to be the most boring speed dating ever where you're like, wow, man.
I can't say anything. I have like
Pretty
mine
lucky
wrapped
that
around my
you never
legs
got
right now.
How nice.
We good?
I was doing the unabashed speaking. I do have to apologize. I think I ate an offensive amount of food. Probably gonna smell it off.
So, for the right personality, they could see it being fun.
Unless it's like us.
As you well know,
Alright, well,
I
I
don't
need you
have
to
the
keep
right
us on track
personality
tonight,
for just
okay?
about anything, so it would be like a disaster.
They left us behind there. Our meeting was a little too stretched.
I'm not really close.
If I get tied up in there, I start to freak out.
Everything except for the speed part.
You can pack that.
I'll find the address. I provided them. I'm like,
You forgot something.
Don't tell them I said that I'm still on probation.
I gotta grab something from my.
And I'm kidding, you can tell him that.
You're the G.
He'll be like, but that was the case.
I'm saying mine is.
I know, because I slide off of and then I get stuck.
So how's your,
But good thing the garbage can. There's a fight.
it's never a good way to start.
I like it, but I went and said, the friends I were with have more expensive cookies, so they were ordering calamari. I just got Caesar salad. So I was happy. We all like our living room was Wisconsin. Yeah, stay simple.
Is that like the only one?
Do you have a pen?
Yeah, it was it's at the gateway. It's where California's pictures.
The computer's
It's been so long, I didn't even know CPK wasn't there.
I actually didn't either. When I got there, I was like, oh.
The sound is on.
Everything else is muted though, like it's on, but it's not on. I don't know. I was hoping you look for it, but Mariah distracted me. There. No, I was helping her look for something, and then your question distracted me from it. There we go.
So I like that.
Well, that's not good.
Yeah, isn't that?
So I have a friend like that where the loser has to go to 24 hours.
Be like showing up at
Or
we don't do that.
so I came up with a brilliant idea thinking I don't usually lose this. I don't normally win.
Oh, no.
We create a guy who sells negatives.
I'm already ready and I came up with this.
We can do favors, like, if you do
I'll
it.
like
Hey Juan, when you just let me know that you're ready, then we'll do it. All right, welcome everybody. It is 7:05. I will call this meeting to order. Thanks for joining us. Please stand with me and repeat the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Rory, will you call roll?
Yes, Councilmember Glover,
Here.
Gettle,
Here.
Brown,
here.
Robinson,
Here.
and Sperry.
Thank you. All right, we're going to hear from Chief Thomas for the Unified Police Report. And I'm real curious about what this is in your hand.
I'm actually a little scared.
That's what it's supposed to be for.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for having me here tonight. I'll make my report brief. I'm assuming you did get our UPD statistics and financials. The financials were out about 10 days later than they normally are. I think part of that is just in preparation for our budget. And kind of the staff was a little bit preoccupied with that. We did have, last month, we did have just over 800. We had 849 cases, which is pretty par for the course with what we've seen on a trend. And what I do like to see is where we can almost predictably land case number wise every time as we look forward. Also, if you noticed in the citations, we had over 800 citations not only this month but last month. A big push of that was our winter street parking. Our traffic cars as well as our officers went out there and really hit the streets hard. We did a lot of citations involved with those that chose to leave their cars on the streets. We tried to be, it's difficult when you've got a heavy snowstorm like that. You got to put the citations in baggies and bury them on windshields. And it's interesting because, 2-3 days later, especially with the storm we saw, a lot of those were still parked. So we tried to be a little bit mindful on that. There were, especially over off of Millennium Way, we did tow 3 or 4 vehicles eventually over there that just never quite got the hint, and I never did hear back from any of the owners on those. I want to mention that on March 13th, we did have a fire call we responded to. It was just off of about 75th South and 150 East, if I recall. Yeah, and our officers arrived just prior to fire, and what it was is they had a patient inside the house that was non-ambulatory, and when they got there, there were smoke and flames showing. So 3 of our officers actually went in and literally picked up the recliner this gentleman was in and pulled him out of the house shortly after fire got there. And the structure itself didn't become very heavily involved, but there's no doubt those 3 officers did quite a job just getting in there in a hasty manner and getting that gentleman out of there. He was in fairly poor condition just due to his health. So we'll be recognizing those 3 officers with a UPD incentive award in the near future. Also want to just relay that I've been coordinating with Glenn at Public Works, just keeping an eye on our waterways and kind of our areas where we may see flooding. Even in this morning's discussions, we have kind of been surprised that we're not even seeing standing water or high flows at this point. So that's a good sign, but I'm not convinced we're over the hump yet. Obviously, the snow totals are still increasing, and you know, like Glenn and I worry about, if there's a quick thaw or a warm week, surf's going to be up, and we don't want to lose our In-N-Out burger like we did back in the day when it was a different restaurant. I do want to take just a moment and introduce a special guest I invited tonight. I think you all hopefully got the packet that went over each one of our Officers of the Month as well as our Officer of the Year. Officer Anna Walker, can you please come up? And I'd be really glad to have her family and support come up with her and stand with her. Come on. And I'll explain a little bit of what's going on here. First of all, Anna played dress up today. It's our weekly SWAT back to basics, and she told me, is it okay if I get done working 10 hours of, I don't know if they're shooting, blowing stuff up, or what, but I can tell you it's a week worth of fun for SWAT men and women. But she brought her family down from Layton and is here to be recognized as their Officer of the Year. I'm going to summarize the citation that was given in the packet because if I read it verbatim, it's quite boring. But what I will tell you about Anna is she is absolutely a pillar of strength and mentorship, leadership, and highly relied upon from her sergeant. She's a shift supervisor. She is calm in chaos. I'll give you a very good example. It's fairly extreme. If you recall, months ago down on I-215, there was a tragic accident with multiple cars where some children lost their lives. It was UHP responded, Midvale precinct responded, as did Cottonwood Heights. And Anna brought that calm. It was a chaotic issue with, kids that had been fatally injured, a lot of other very serious injuries, and Anna pretty much took over the entire scene for both agencies that had responded and arranged for medical, arranged for officer welfare, citizen welfare, and that's just how Anna works. She can take the most chaotic situation and restore it, and that's what I've always admired about Anna. Now, you're kind of curious about this award. It is kind of not your typical award, which is kind of personifies Anna. Anna loves the mountains. Anna loves waterfalls. Anna's bucket list, I found out, was going to be climbing a frozen waterfall. So not that I knew that, but I just know Anna, this award was specially made with her in mind. And it can either be used for climbing waterfalls or possibly home defense. I wouldn't want to, or, I just wouldn't want to get out of line with Anna. And she's got her 2 sons here as well as her family and support, which is huge. Another thing Anna cares greatly about is her family. So I'll just hold this up and I'd be happy to walk it by, but it's actually, it's an ice axe. And when talking about this, I went to someone, I said, can you make it look like it's in a chunk of rock or ice? And they've never had that before. So it was some challenge, but they were able to meet the challenge. And it's designed to either hang on the wall or you can set it on a desk, or, even if home defense comes into play, or maybe for ice falls, who knows? But I want to thank Anna for everything she does for us. She's a stud-iss, I guess would be the proper term, and always has been. It's funny, when Anna first was going to try out for SWAT, and I used to be the SWAT commander, I gave her just a little bit of advice that has always worked out for those that try out for SWAT, and I said, just shut up and be a sponge, and give that about a year. I think Anna gave it about 6 months, And now she's one of the team leaders on that, and she's highly respected there at SWAT too. She's an explosive breacher for SWAT, so I didn't want to mount like a explosive charge. I just don't think that would be appropriate. But thank you very much, Anna. And I don't know if you want to say anything or answer any questions from the council.
Well, Chief, first of all, thank you for getting Anna here. And I just have to say, Anna and I have not interacted that much, but as I've been at the precinct, she's been in some of these meetings we've done with the officers. But the other day I was there talking to you, and as I was leaving, she was coming in, and I said, "Oh, Officer of the Year." And I'll tell you what, she I think took that opportunity to really talk to me about what was going on with UPD, what the board had been talking about. And every time we try to interact with officers, that's exactly what I want. I want that engagement. I want all of you to feel comfortable to ask those questions. And Anna definitely stepped up to the plate and did that. So that was a great interaction. I'm glad that we could have that conversation. And definitely, again, just being able to step up and have that conversation with me, I thought was important and clearly shows the leadership that you're bringing to the rest of your roles.
Absolutely. I'd love to get a picture of all of us and the family and everyone if we could.
Let's do it.
Can we come up here, and Rory, would you snap
Rory's
that for
going
us?
to take it.
I'll give you the piece I broke off, I promise. Come up here. We'll just stand here and face out this way.
I want a close one with you and Anna and the kiddos. And then we'll do a big one as well. Okay, I'll get both kiddos in there. Okay, ready? There you go. I love it. Yeah, one more. Okay, then we're gonna go bigger. All right. Okay, big smile. One more. Very good. Thank you.
You know what, do that narrower one again, because I had a cheesy smile and I didn't do it. Not the narrow one, do the narrow one again.
Oh, are you
Like he's
serious?
photobombing.
That's hilarious. Okay, but I like it. Cheesy smile.
I was just gonna look like my head is standing right in that band.
Now I don't know what's going on. Are you?
This is just that as we know. Wait, can you put this on? Can you give it to her? Yeah. That's fine.
Was it too cheesy?
It was a better, bigger smile.
Here's this piece, sorry. I don't have any more to report. Do you have any questions or comments for me? And all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. All right. Thanks again, Anna and family. Thanks for being here. All right, with that, we'll move on to the Boys and Girls Club report, and we'll hear from Amanda Hughes.
Thank you. I'm just going to start this here and I'll pass it. I think I've got enough to get to everybody. How much time do I have on this? I should have clarified that before. Because I can take up your whole meeting or I can talk in 30 seconds. But 10? 10? That's fine. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And my name's Amanda Hughes. I'm the president and CEO for Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Salt Lake. And our Midvale Club is one of our flagship operations and sites that resides here in Midvale. And I appreciate the opportunity to come and speak before the council to share with you some of the information about our services, about what we've been doing in 2022, and what we have plans for the future. And we appreciate our partnership with the city very, very much. We have been serving kids and families since 2000 at the current location, kind of off Chapel Street over there. And we've got some information that I've shared with you that I want to highlight. But I think some important, just kind of top of mind stuff that's been happening. One, our relationship with the city and Mayor Stevenson and City Manager Dahl, we appreciate your time and your efforts in showing up for our kids and our families at multiple events throughout the year, as well as we've worked through how do we connect to help serve kids and especially teens in our community. So we appreciate that time and effort as well. So As I've shared with you here, our impact report, as well as a budget for what we do. Many of you may have heard of the Boys and Girls Clubs. Like I said, we've been around since 2000, but maybe going, what happens in that building there, and what are we doing, and is it a rec center, is it a babysitter, is it a daycare, what is it? And it's like, yes, kind of all of those things combined. Because we don't do any just one thing, we serve the whole kid and really benefit multiple families. We take a youth-centered approach in our philosophy for serving youth in out-of-school time. What that means is after school and all day in summer, our programs and services are affordable and accessible to families and kids, and we try and make that really affordable by only charging a registration membership fee for $20 for the school year, $20 for the summer. There is some small transportation fee for some of the schools that we provide access to, and transportation fee, but it's $10 a month. And many times when that's a barrier for families, we find ways that we can scholarship in that. We can waive that fee for families that really need it the most. We do serve partnerships with the Midvale Family Shelter, have done so since they've opened, where we make sure we have a safe place, especially in the summer, for kids who are in transitional housing or in the shelter, to have a safe place to go. So we do, like I said, that youth center approach for out of school time, after school and summer. What does that mean? It's really looking at the whole child and what their needs are. We want them, the same things you might want for your kids, your grandkids, nieces, nephews, anybody of those kids in your life. We want them to do well in school. We want them to make good, healthy choices. That means avoiding risky choices as well that they carry with them into adulthood, and we want them to be good members of their community. And this year we're really excited because the highest award that we can give to one of our youth is what we call the Youth of the Year Award. A member who's been coming to our club and who exemplifies all three of those values of academic success, healthy lifestyles, and good character and citizenship. Each club in our Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Salt Lake nominates a member to be the Youth of the Year. And then they compete at the local level for the Greater Salt Lake title. And this year, that candidate came from our Midvale club. So the Greater Salt Lake Youth of the Year is Yultisi from Midvale. She is a senior at Hillcrest High School. She's won over $4,000 in scholarship for that program, through that program, and represented our state, or excuse me, our city at the state level competition this past February. And we were really excited and honored to have Mayor Stevenson there, pictured with her and her family at the state capitol, representing Midvale and Boys and Girls Clubs there earlier. She's excited to continue her career and education, and she wants to pursue a career in law and or politics. And she's really gotten involved in trying to, I think she's even come to this council herself. She's been president of our Keystone Group, which is a service and leadership organization club within the club for 2 years, and she's going to go off and do great things through that scholarship program, as well as our advanced education scholarship that has been made possible through a private donor. She will have a full ride scholarship for whatever her career goals are. So she's excited. We're helping her get ready for putting in all of her college applications right now. We have served in 2022 443 youth. We just calculated our numbers as we closed the books from end of December, so it took us January to do that. And I was on the books to come last month to present this information, and then that snowmageddon hit us. So these are 2022 calendar year numbers up to date. I think that's exciting because that's a 30% increase in enrollment from the year before. COVID took a hit on all of our programs and services, but we never shut our doors during COVID. In fact, we turned our Midvale Club was open all day when schools were closed for online school access during that, even most recently in January of 2022 when Canyons had to close for 2 weeks during the last Omicron surge. We never closed our doors. We opened it for essential workers during stay-at-home orders, and then we're able to build up our enrollment and come back to full operations as staffing capacity has allowed us to do that. So to see a 30% increase over from 2021 to 2022 is exciting. And you can kind of see the demographics of who are those kids that we're serving there on the front page. Of course, we're focusing, we had 340 elementary or junior aged youth attend our club last year, and 103 teens. And we'll talk about where we're really looking to grow that opportunity as we kind of move forward. One of the exciting things that we've done this year is we've always been surveying our kids on their club experience, but a new tool that we released just now in 2023 in January was a parent and caregiver survey where we could find out what are we doing to support the families and how are our parents having a club experience. And so you can see some of the highlights from that survey there that 83% of the parents felt that their club, that the club helps their kids prepare for the future. 89% of parents say that their kids feel safe at the club, and 80% say there's an adult at the club that their kids can talk to. 91% of parents feel the club benefits them as a caregiver. I think, and if you even dig down into deeper, the other 9% just wasn't a lot, it was the somewhat. So 99.9% of all of our parents said that yes, they're benefiting, the club is benefiting them as a caregiver, and that they're an important part of their families' lives. And I think that's important because while we talk about the kids and the teens that we're serving, what we realize is that we are making a service available for families who need affordable places for their kids to go. $20 a school year, $20 a summer, and like I said, oftentimes that's waived. When kids need a place to go while mom and dad are working, they're able to stay working because they have a place where their kids can go. We keep the working class working, we keep mom and dad employed, and they feel, many of the survey comments, the open-ended questions were like, I'm so glad that I know I can be at work and my kids are safe. I know my kids are getting their homework done. I know my kids are doing that while I'm at work, and that they feel that the club services allow them to be a better, productive employee. So that's really, really, I think, significant in that we're not just serving kids and teens, we're serving the entire family by making those places available for kids while mom and dad are working. Some of the needs that we saw come out of COVID increase, of course, in our academic needs for our kids. This year's seniors, ULTC, if you dial it back to where it was in March of 2020, she was a freshman in high school. This is the class that's graduating who have been most significantly impacted by COVID. So we were working with those teens to make sure they're on track to graduate with a plan for the future, as well as then think of how that has impacted all the way down to even, I have a 7-year-old, I'm a Midvale resident, live over near Fort Union, so I'm happy to be a part of that. But if you think about my 7-year-old impacted when he was in pre-K and kindergarten, not only his ability to learn, to read, to speak, all of his vocabulary, we see that across the board at all ages. So what we've had to do is really be dynamic and responsive in the programs and services that we're providing, that we can laser focus into the specific and unique needs. One of those needs not only in the academics, but also in the social, emotional, and mental well-being of our kids. We have seen cognitive development delays. We're seeing higher incidences of anxiety, of mental illness, of anxiety and depression, and kids not feeling like they have access, or families feeling that they don't have access to mental health care and facilities that they can get to easily. If you tried to make an appointment for an intake or an evaluation with a licensed mental health therapist, sometimes the waiting lists are over 2 months long to even get seen by a therapist. So what we've done is partnered with a licensed therapist group that is also a nonprofit that focuses in services for youth and teens, and we've brought their services into our club. They're doing these programs right along inside our clubs, and you can see that on the page in the different age groups. We've got the Mighty Warriors, the 6 to 10-year-old, the Girls Inspired, which is girls group, and the Teen Mindful and Mood Management, and the number of sessions we've been able to do in our clubs just in 2022 alone with those licensed clinical therapists. And as well as part of our services with them, we can refer when needed for individual counseling in our clubs with parent permission. That counseling session can happen in our clubs, and you can see we have 16 members in our Midvale location who are receiving therapy in our clubs from a licensed therapist at no additional cost passed through onto the family. That's removing those barriers of affordability and accessibility to mental health care. We'd like to see it grow and expand on that. One of the things that we were also able to do in 2022 is bring back our family engagement nights and activities. For COVID times, we really were trying to minimize exposure into our clubs, so many of those activities and field trips went on hold. So we had 9 family club events in 2022. We had a rockin' Halloween carnival that was just, elbow to elbow full of kids and families and teens having a good time together. We're excited to bring more of those activities back, end of school carnivals, summer parties, all of those kind of things. So those are really important things that allow kids and families the opportunity to be together and to have wholesome recreation and opportunities and engagement in a club there where they feel like they belong. As we said, 90% said that the club was an important part of their families' lives, and we take that really seriously. On the back, you can kind of see some of the things that our kids say about the clubs, that they feel like they are honing in on their leadership ability, that they have a sense of belonging at the club, that they feel safe. Safety is our #1 priority, of course, for our kids. And they love the staff, those meaningful relationships that they develop with the staff who are there every single day. One more positive adult role model in each kid's life is so important. The difference that can make to have another adult in their life that cares about them, that they can talk to. We know that dramatically decreases their chances of those who have a meaningful mentor relationship, of those who are considering, end of life, suicide ideation. Even having one adult role model in their life reduces that by 40%, I think was the statistic, of their risk. We're looking forward to 2025, and some of these conversations we're continuing of what do we want, what do we need, what do we know our kids and our teens especially need, safe places. We would like to double our enrollment. So we had that 30% increase from last year to this year, or to 2022. By the end of 2025, I'd love to be standing right back here to you and say, you know what, we have 844 kids or 886 kids come through and enroll in our programs, especially focused on our middle school and teen populations. We know that that's critical. They're making decisions during that age that have lifelong consequences, so we really want to get them in to our clubs and be able to provide our intervention services, prevention services, and those enrichment opportunities for these kids. So we're looking at increasing enrollment, especially in the middle school and teens, by hiring additional staff and increasing transportation. Especially, we do not have transportation currently from the high school or from Union Middle School. So we'd like to be able to add transportation to be able to get those kids into our clubs and increase enrollment. We'd also like to be able to increase our staff. It's important that we maintain a ratio of 1 to 20 for safety reasons, as well as the quality of the club experience, and increasing our transportation to be able to see an average daily attendance of 140. That number spikes, and we do see numbers similar to that in summer, but we'd like that in our school year as well. So one of the things that I think is interesting, and then I will turn it over for questions, is our budget. And this is our annual budget. We're in a fiscal year. So these numbers here are calendar year, and then this is a fiscal year. We're halfway through our fiscal year right now, so we'll end in June of this year. So we're presenting to you what our budget is for this current fiscal year. There is support from Midvale City. We appreciate that very much. That's been ongoing for a number of years. We'd like to let you know how we're using that, of course, through program support roles for our salaries for those important mentors that are in our clubs every single day. Program supplies, our transportation, snacks, and meals are a portion of that. What I think is interesting is this number at the bottom of the impact report. If you were to take our budget of what it costs to operate our Midvale Club only, is $1.1 million, almost $1.2 million when you add in an allocation of our administrative services that support all of our Greater Salt Lake clubs. We allocate a percentage to the Midvale to get this full number. What we know through an independent study that was conducted through the University of Michigan on Boys and Girls Clubs specifically is a return on investment for the state of Utah, and this is the Utah number, is $10.80 for every dollar invested into a Boys and Girls Club. What that does is return back in direct services to the economy, as well as the prevention and the cost savings of future, of other interventions through juvenile justice, through other social services, through and then what's returned back through increased wages, more productive workers, all of those. So this is $10.80 for every dollar invested. So we can essentially put $12 million back into Midvale's economy just by having our club here. And I think that's significant for what we're trying to accomplish as a city and as a community. With that, I'd love to just kind of turn it over to any questions you may have, what thoughts or comments.
I just wanted to comment real quick. I took a tour of the facility a few years ago. Love everything that you guys do over there, and it's just, you know, the amount of stress and anxiety you take from kids, their parents, the combination of the two is just, you can't say enough about it. So thank you for everything that you guys do.
Thank you.
I did have a question. Just my curiosity. Do you guys have any special programs or staff members that are specifically trained to deal with like LGBTQ
Yes.
kids
So
and issues that might arise?
that's an awesome question. Thank you for asking. So we do make inclusivity and sense of belonging a priority for all of our staff, and we do specific training for all of our youth development professionals on inclusion. We've actually modified many of our curriculums to be more inclusive in gender orientation, in the different relationship identities as well. So we're inclusive in that. We don't have anyone at this moment that is specifically like, I am this inclusion person, but we are adding a new role that's in the administrative that'll support all of our services, which is a director of supportive services, and they are specializing in trauma-informed practices as well as all of the different risk factors, and LGBTQ is part of that, so that they can become certified in these trauma-informed practices and cascade that all out to all of our staff. So yeah, that's a priority for us.
Oh,
Absolutely.
awesome. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you. Yeah, and we think representation is important too. So we have a number of staff who identify as non-binary, different genders, and we have lots of representation for, they have their pronouns on their name tags or badges and things like that. So we really try and build an inclusive environment as well. We're also upgrading a lot of our building right now. We have some one-time funding. In fact, I might draw your attention to the budget there of the footnote of some COVID relief funding that has been made available through the ARPA funds that came through the Child Care Licensing Office. Our juniors program is under a license exempt program and was eligible for some of those fundings to make updates to our building, to make updates to our transportation, to do some of that. We're actually redoing our entire bathroom spaces right now to be more inclusive, to be gender neutral, to be safer, all of those kind of things too. So definitely, if you haven't been to a club for a few years, come this summer. I would love to extend individual invitations to all of you to come see, because we have made a lot of building improvements and continue to do so. And as we have some of that funding available, we are looking and exploring options of how do we create long-term sustainability for us? How do we commit so that we're here in Midvale for another 23, 25, 30 years? And some of the building and the debt that we have and that we share with the city as part of that conversation. I would love to be able to allocate some of those one-time use funds into putting towards that building cost as well. So I'd love to continue as we continue conversations about that. Okay. That was a long answer to your one question.
No, I appreciate it.
It just reminded me of everything else I wanted to say. What other questions do you have or topic comments. What else can I answer?
Amanda, I just wanted
Yeah.
to thank you for being here. I do feel like I'm growing this bias towards the Boys and Girls Club
That was my plan all along.
just because of the amount I've interacted with the kids at our club over the last year, and it's been just great to get to know some of those kids. I will say we had an event for the city the other day, and Yule TC was there, and I was
She's
like
awesome.
showing up to a city event. I was quite excited about it. I had to say thank you for coming.
Yeah.
I don't see it in here. I may have missed it. How much does it cost the Boys and Girls Club for each individual kid?
So I had that calculated at once when it was just the operating costs without the administrative, and it was around $600 and something per kid, or excuse me, $1,600. Now that I've added the administrative cost in, I need to recalculate, but if we essentially take this 1.18 and divide it by the 443, we'd get that, right? I know, so that's probably closer to 2,000. It's a little inflated this year, and I'll be honest, because we do have that one-time funding that a portion of those funds are going into some of our operating that we wouldn't have when those funds expire in 2024. So I think that's a little inflated. I think it will continue to be around $1,600 to $1,800, although we know what we could pay somebody in 2019 and even 2020 is not what we can pay somebody now. And so salaries and those costs are rising. But if I were to do this calculation, I think it'll come over around 2,000 per kid. But then I think, like I said, I think that'll average out in around $1,600 to $1,800 a year, which again is costs that we absorb as part of the way we fundraise. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments?
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I will be reaching out and would love to invite you all to come visit us at a club very soon. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Amanda.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, moving on to the public comments portion of the agenda. Any person wishing to comment on any item not otherwise scheduled for a public hearing on the agenda tonight may address the city council at this point by stepping to the microphone and stating the name for the record. Just so anybody in the audience knows, we do not have any public hearings tonight, so if you do have any public comments, now is the time. Do we have any public comments? Come on up. And please just state your name for the record.
So my name is Molly Swanger. I am with the League of Women Voters. I'm the observer for Midvale. So I watch these virtually all the time, and I report back to League of Women Voters. So I'm here probably most importantly as a constituent. I'm in the 1st District, and I just wanted to urge you to support the ranked choice voting. Just opt into it this year. I think continued support for it will continue to build engagement, voter engagement, which is, I think, one of the big perks to ranked choice voting, and very much acknowledge some of the unfortunate cost additions that seem to have popped up. So I hope we can do it, but I definitely understand the position that we're in, and I just thank you all for everything you do.
Thanks so much. Any other public comments? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to the reports. Mine being first, Unified Fire just announced their Fire School 101 for this year. It is April 14th. Just as a reminder, that's pretty much an all-day thing. I got to go last year. It was a great experience. So if we have anybody from the council that is interested, let me know, and then I can submit your name to the UFA staff, and they'll get it to the union as they make their selections of who will be able to attend this year. Secondly, we had a Back to the Future event where we were able to give feedback on the future of Main Street and some of the design aspects of Main Street. Just want to shout out our RDA staff. It was really, I think, an interesting and positive event. I know that staff here has really been looking at how do we continue to engage our residents, but also engage them in a different way and grow. We know we've got a pretty solid group of folks who generally give us feedback. So how do we grow that pool of residents who are continuously engaged? And I definitely saw new faces at this event. And so thank you, RDA, for putting that together. It was a lot of fun. Secondly, I will just really quickly, because we'll have time later on in the agenda to talk about this a little bit more, is just so everybody knows, this has been in the news, but with UPD, the board has set is a strong term because there was no vote on it. There was a basic consensus to try to wrap up the reorganizing, this whole process of figuring out, of having new organization, whatever that looks like, started by July 1st of 2024. Again, in recognition that we need to be able to get answers to our community and to our officers as quickly and as responsibly as we can. Part of this as well is I fully expect as we go through this process, we're gonna run into some bumps in the road, and that provides us some time to figure it out and not run up on that deadline and then hit a snag and not be prepared to have public safety in our community. So just so everybody is aware right now, that is a basic goal by the UPD board. With that, we'll move to council reports, and Councilmember Gettle.
Oh, thanks, Mayor. Two things real quick. I noticed there's a flashing yellow sign, 7200 South, for westbound traffic turning onto the freeway that seems to have been knocked out by one of the snowstorms. I was just wondering if we could maybe contact UDOT and see what their replacement schedule might be. I know that's a very dangerous, a lot of folks who are turning westbound onto the interstate just kind of go without looking. And I've witnessed some accidents myself there. So hoping we could do that. Glenn, are you able to?
I will be reaching out.
Okay, cool.
There's other sign issues there as well that
Yeah, it seems like a couple of things got knocked out there this year. Also, Governor Cox signed an executive order granting 8 hours of time for state employees to help with sandbagging operations throughout the state. I was wondering and hoping maybe City Manager Dahl might be interested in considering a similar policy for city employees who engage in that type of effort as well.
We can look into that.
Okay.
Glenn will also be, this isn't what you're asking specifically, but Glenn will also be talking a little bit about where we're on our flood prep stuff too here.
Okay. And if there's any, I know there was an event last week that was kind of last minute, so I wasn't able to attend that one. Some other people probably wouldn't. So if we know in advance of another event, if you could let us know, I'd love to help out with that. But yeah, other than that, that's it for me, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Brown?
Yeah, I have a couple things. I'd like to thank this woman, I missed your name, I'm sorry, for coming in. Molly, I appreciate it. I like the ranked choice voting, and I agree it does need to be presented in a way that, people see that it's supported. I know it's a big change for a lot of people, but I think it has a positive impact. So I appreciate you coming in and sort of sharing that. And I want to say, for like 5 years, I've pushed for fire school, and I am still recovering from this Achilles tendon, this surgery. So I'm sorry I can't go. Maybe if I went, someone would have to carry me in a stretcher or something like that. I don't know. So I felt like maybe next year. Yeah, like if Heidi wants to go, something along the lines. So sorry, I've bugged you. Now there's the opportunity, and now I've wasted it, I guess.
I'll say, Bryant, in solidarity, I'm not going to do it this year because I only want to do it with Councilmember Brown. The fire school.
I will go again, and I don't care who goes with me. So.
Yeah, I hear it's cool, but I want to be able to experience it. Yeah. And lastly, I brought this up a couple weeks ago with the slope at Zion's, how it kind of looked pretty ugly. And I thought, oh, wow, couldn't get worse. And now it's like significantly worse with these weird like ravines and fissures running down the side, and the trees look dead. I mean, is there a way we can push on Zion's or the owners to really, I would really like that slope to look inviting and new, because it doesn't look that much different than when it was just the cap covered with dirt. It's not welcoming, right? And it's such a huge project. It's such an important part that, like, what do we need to do to get it so it, like, I'm not saying it needs to be grass or whatever, but like the fissures now look
pretty terrible. However, I did notice in the last snowstorm, quite a few snowboarding tracks in that, on that slope, which could be interesting if that continues. I don't know how dangerous that could be, but I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I'm not condoning it. I'm not saying you should do that, anyone, but yeah.
So Keith can correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that they've got another set of engineers looking at how to prevent that erosion. It's an issue, and the city's not going to sign off on it until they've got it remedied. Is that accurate?
100%. You are correct, sir. And will there be a plan with that to whatever they're gonna? Are they landscape? Like, what is it?
Don't know. They've got to go re-engineer it.
They got to fix that problem first.
My understanding, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, is there's not a lot of dirt between the cap and, there's only 3 or 4 feet, so the water gets underneath it and erodes it. Is that right? 5 feet.
So that's why we're getting those fissures.
So yeah, because the water has nowhere to go once it hits that membrane, and then it erodes. So they've got
from underneath it.
Yeah, they've got to engineer something to remedy that.
And I can appreciate that. I just want to lean on it just because it's supposed to be like, hey, we built this thing, and all you're looking at is like this really ugly. Unless you drive around and pull into the project, then it looks fine. But I want the community to be able to see it. So, thanks. Thank you, Glenn. That's all I have.
Thank you. Councilmember Robinson.
I do have one thing that I'm hoping maybe we can investigate a little bit more. And I'm not sure if that is enforcement or how it's going to look, but I have noticed I have a few new developments that have come up over in our district. And I've noticed that between the 3 of them, I'm getting a lot of calls with violating parking issues, like parking directly under stop signs, and litter, and it's just, I don't know how we can make these developments be less burdensome on the neighborhoods surrounding them. So, and I don't know, like I said, I don't know if that's an enforcement issue or what, but I feel like we have to do something if it's getting to the point that every development we're getting multiple calls per week. So that's all I have.
Did you have any follow-up on that?
Just let's connect and which ones you're specifically talking about, and we'll get enforcement.
Yeah, I mean, luckily Officer Utley, Detective Utley's been great, but I feel like I'm making a lot of calls right now.
Okay. Thank you. Councilmember Glover?
Nothing this evening.
Councilmember Sperry?
Nothing, Mayor.
Okay. City Manager Dahl?
Yeah. Glenn, do you want to start off with flood stuff?
Just really quickly, this is our flood plan for 2023. I'm not going to go through it all. Jeremy Thorne, the deputy director, and the storm manager, Roland, put this together. But it's basically a list of our known hotspots or trouble areas, or where we anticipate seeing issues. We've looked at the FEMA flood maps. We're monitoring flow stations on Little Cottonwood Creek via online. The county has that capability. So far, things are looking really good. You've heard that you can get 25 sandbags from the county here within Midvale, and then if residents need more, they can get 5 from the program that we've started here. I don't anticipate currently an immediate need. It's really kind of what the chief mentioned earlier. It's going to be weather dependent. If it gets hot really fast and it comes down fast, we will have issues. It's just where. We've tried to get ahead of where those are and be proactive and get those things cleaned and get things prepped. We have 2 pallets of sandbags that will be mobile. Once we pull the salters out of one of the 10-wheelers, we'll put them in there. So they'll be ready to deploy quickly. And I think lastly, one of my bigger concerns was if they started to run the canals before the runoff hit. So I've had Roland reach out to the canal companies because we do share a lot of storm and irrigation pipe, and if they are both running at the same time, it's going to be problematic. The word we got today was nothing definite, but they're anticipating a month out from the canals coming on. I don't know if that's a month out from today or a month out from when they normally start running, which is typically April 10th. April 10th to October 10th is canal season. but they do kind of shift that early date depending on drought or flooding for this year. So overall, I mean, we're prepared, we're watching it, we're monitoring everything. We're coordinating with the emergency manager, Brad Jewett, with the chiefs, Swift Water Rescue, and we're on it, and we're as prepared as we can be for what we know.
Are the properties down by Topgolf, are those the ones that are going to be at the highest risk?
No, they are in the FEMA floodplain map, but this is an atypical year, but typically they have less than 0.5% chance of flooding down there.
Yeah.
I believe that they will be isolated incidences. I don't think that the river is going to breach. They can manage those things. It's going to be the smaller creeks, and it's going to be our storm system overwhelmed or failing in certain areas, and that's just going to be hard to predict.
Okay, so it's not like a catastrophe where the river floods.
Yeah, I don't anticipate. You might see higher flows, but I don't anticipate, breaching.
Okay.
I know that I was in a meeting last week with the Salt Lake County flood manager. It was just a conference of mayors meeting, and he was there to talk about what they were doing to prep, and so much of what he stressed was that really this is debris making it into the waterways and then clogging the system. And so that it's not so much that what we have built out can't take the capacity, it's that we clog it because as all of us need to do our part to help keep the systems clear.
Yeah, if you can help keep the grates, any storm grates in front of your home clear, things like that. I wasn't up there today, but Roland drove by Little Cottonwood Creek, and the county was up there removing debris, and that is a county facility, but we keep an eye on it because it does have, the potential to affect us. But they are out there being proactive, doing debris removal.
I know the last time we flooded, there was a lot of the small irrigation ditches were flooding. Have we looked at those?
We have looked at the ones that the city maintains, and then as folks call in, we try and get a history to see, on any of those. But yeah, we are looking at them. The ones that the city owns, we've already gone and dredged and cleaned, and have plans to finish that up over the next week.
Last time, they weren't cleaned, and water just came over and into the homes.
Okay. So yes, we are trying to get ahead of that, and those problem areas are listed. Those ditches are on the hotspot list here.
Can we put out something on social media asking residents to take a look at those?
Gutters?
Yeah.
I'm sure that we can.
Yep. I think that'd be a good idea.
And do we have any pumps available to the city so that
We have some smaller ones, and we put in a purchase order today. We finally got a good quote that we could push, and hopefully it'll be here in the next week or two.
Because that would be.
Yes, this is a portable trailer-mounted, real deal pump.
Get a real problem. We can go up and help.
Yep, for sure.
Looks a lot better if the city's tried to help than if.
Correct.
They just get flooded.
And I don't remember the numbers from this morning that Brad mentioned, but we're surrounded by tens of thousands of sandbags at the county here, and
I know the
Sandy,
county's got a lot
and
of them.
so I think we'll be supported. Any questions or comments? Or
Do you know of
clear
any
it up?
sandbagging events that are in the future yet?
No, the last one that I was made aware of was last Friday, Saturday at the county, and it sounds like they're pretty stockpiled right now.
Okay.
But if any further ones come up, we will push that info out.
Okay, cool.
Do other entities seem nervous? Like, is there a general fear that it's going to, or is it just precautionary at this point?
It's just precautionary. I've had a number of meetings with other public works directors and folks this week, and we're all just kind of in the same boat. We know the problem areas in the city. We know kind of where to look, but it's just waiting for what the weather gives us.
It would be nice if you do hear those discussions where they're like, it's imminent, right, or something.
Yeah.
If you can let us know, because I wouldn't. It could be so traumatic for someone if their house does have water in or something, right? And so if you do hear rumblings that it's like, oh no, it's a greater than 50%
We will keep you
chance.
informed. Absolutely.
Cool. Thank you.
Matt?
Yeah, thank you, Glenn. Let's see. couple of scheduling things and a couple of drop balls that I wanted to let you know about that I have not forgotten about and we'll get to. One of them being is that I did not get all of the materials put together for the legislative update this time. I am intending to still get you a detailed version of that at the next meeting. I just didn't get it put together, so in case you're wondering why it wasn't on the agenda, it is still coming. In that same vein, I am getting Stonewall Jackson off the wall. That was my bad.
Thank you.
There's a Canyons Education Foundation gala coming up on April 13th. We have, as we have done for many years, we have purchased a table at that, or sponsored a table at that event. We have 8 seats. The event will be in Draper. I can get whoever's interested the exact address, and it'll be at 6 p.m. Last year, we ended up basically the priority is, of course, you. And if you, council isn't interested, then we'll have staff attend. Also, if we have scholarship winners that are from our high school that receive those scholarships, we would have them also sit at our table. So it's a little, we're trying to work out who should be all there, but I guess I'm just trying to say who is interested in attending this gala. It was a lot of fun last year. Food was good.
A couple of pictures that can be used for bribery purposes, I think. Is there a theme this year? I'm always interested in the theme. I mean, I'll go either way.
I would be interested in going too.
Quinn, do you know if there's a theme?
For the gala? There is not a theme.
I know they said they were going fancier than they usually do.
I mean, there's not a theme other than it's like,
I'm out.
I mean, they kind of said suit and tie, because it's gonna be, it's at Siempre in Draper. They have a comedian who's coming to present, and then there will be a silent auction for different goods that are donated, silent auction for desserts to the table, which they did say. So if you're coming, they're expecting you to help bid on a dessert. So I don't know if we got a city table, if we're gonna say this is, the city will donate this for the dessert. That's kind of it. It'll be, the first hour is kind of socialized, and then we go up to the tables for the program.
Thank you. As much as I'd like to pretend that you are just an expert on random galas happening throughout the county, Quinn is our representative on the Canyon School District Foundation Board, so thank you.
I am on the board, and I don't know about all these galas, because I got on the board and they said it, like, are you coming? I said, I hate those events, I don't want to go. And they said, no, board members come to this. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll go.
You were at the Met Gala this year, right?
What's that?
You were at the Met Gala this year, right?
Yeah, absolutely. No. But yes, so I will go to this one.
The comedian's Bert Kreischer, is that right? No? That didn't land very well, sorry.
I can't remember who it is. But they changed the date so that this comedian could come, because he was, knowing what it was for, I mean, he didn't zero out his appearance amount, but it's like a small fraction what he usually charges. So,
cool. Great. So I heard Heidi interested, Quinn, of course, interested. The mayor, and Dustin, you're out because no theme.
No, it's not the theme. I'm not a dress-up gala kind of person, but I could make an exception, perhaps, if Heidi will talk me into it.
Consider yourself talked into
I do have a suit at home. It has a lot of dust that I will have to dust off, but
okay, Quinn.
It exists.
Heidi, Mayor, Dustin. You didn't say you wanted it. Okay. All right. Cool. Thank you so much. Okay. So the next thing then is we will be having an issue has come up about how many chickens we can have in yards of different sizes. This is an issue that we've been talking about, and we will have the discussion for that one coming up at the next meeting. And then the campaign finance discussion that we had from before, Garrett has been working with some interested council members on this. You're following up with one more council member on that, and then the goal would be not the next meeting, but the meeting after that, coming back with the red line?
That's correct.
Okay. So that's the timing on that. And then at the budget retreat, we will discuss the rain barrel program, Heidi, that you have some interest. We've connected with them. Again, not necessarily for the spring, but we can get it into the budget for next year.
Thank you.
To do that. And then, I don't know if you guys know this, but the COVID emergency is ending May 11th. And we're all gonna be safer on May 12th.
COVID's gone.
So that being said, though, we have been operating under an executive order that still provides like an emergency leave for people who have COVID. Our intent is that we will be looking at, that was done through an executive order, and we'll be looking at doing something with that executive order, ending that COVID time, probably around the time that the national emergency is over. So just wanted to give you guys a heads up on that. I think that was really the biggest thing that was still in that last executive order. So with that, that's all I got tonight. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to our consent agenda. Just one item, consider minutes of March 7th, 2023. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Mayor, I motion we approve the consent agenda.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Rory, will you call roll?
Yes, Councilmember Sperry.
Aye.
Glover.
Aye.
Robinson. Aye. Brown.
Yes.
And Gettle.
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Thank you. All right, moving on to our first action item of the night. Consider resolution number 2023 R10, authorizing the mayor to enter into a perpetual access easement agreement between Midvale City and Salt Lake County for the construction, maintenance, and operation of 2 concrete boat ramps adjacent to the Jordan River. Glenn? Yes, this was the item that we had talked about putting on the consent, but then it
But
was
it's not on
determined that
consent?
we could not put it on
Okay.
the consent. So.
A easement agreement with the county to allow them to construct and maintain 2 boat ramps to Portage. I'm trying to think of the development, just behind Howe Cove Park. No maintenance responsibilities moving forward. It's just simply to give access to install these portages.
Any questions or comments for Glenn?
Do we maintain them after they're in, or
No.
county does?
The contract states that the county will maintain them moving forward.
Glenn, kind of related just in geography, but can we look at, like all of those lighting fixtures on the trail are, like none of them are lit up at this point, and I see the need to do this, the boat ramps. I think it's going to be great, but if we have just a junky looking section of the Jordan River Trail that doesn't have proper lighting at dusk and nighttime, I just don't want that to be what people take from our section of the Jordan River Trail.
Totally understand, and this is probably a budget retreat type
Got it.
conversation.
I'll wait for next week then.
Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, move that we adopt resolution number 2023 R10, granting Salt Lake County a perpetual easement for the construction and maintenance of 2 boat ramps on the Jordan River.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Rory, will you call roll?
Yes, Councilmember Glover.
Aye.
Robinson.
Aye.
Brown.
Yes.
Gettle.
Yes.
And Sperry.
Aye.
Okay, that passes.
I do want to say one thing on that really quick. And Garrett, you might want to clarify this, but we, in the past, have, I think, added some things to the consent agenda that we should have had individually approved. Garrett has relooked at sort of the code, and so this last item was one that you had said put on the consent agenda, but state code requires resolution ordinances and things that, what's the term? It wasn't bind, but
Any action that creates liability for the city.
we'll have to do independently. So that's why, even though you said put that on the consent, we made it an actual action item. So appreciate your willingness to be more efficient in adding things to that, but we'll be doing it this way going forward.
Okay. All right, item B, consider resolution number 2023-R11, approving the election method for the 2023 Midvale municipal election and authorizing the mayor to enter into an interlocal agreement between Salt Lake County Election Division and Midvale City for election services. Rory?
Okay. We discussed this issue at the last meeting on March 7th, and you had a few questions that I found some answers. Well, the mayor found some answers for me too, because he happened to run into Lanny Chapman, so thank you, Mayor, I appreciate that. I was mistaken on the voter count that we had. That was just for the 3 districts, not the entire city, thank goodness. So that was concerning to me, but that was not relayed to any of us at the meeting, that it was just for those 3 districts, but thank goodness it was. So we have not lost that many voters. Okay. And then also, if the council chooses to go with the ranked choice voting method, and there's not enough candidates that file to really have a ranked choice voting election, we still have to pay the amount because the county clerk does not want to change it midstream on any of the other entities that are already planning their budget, because it is based on how many sign up to do the ranked choice voting. So she was leaning towards, and Mayor, correct me if I'm wrong, that she is going to keep it the same whether it needs to be a ranked choice election or not.
That's correct. I don't want to steal your thunder here, but in my conversation with the county clerk, she had just clarified that whatever system they use for ranked choice voting is $25,000, and so if you only have one person using it, they're paying that whole cost, but otherwise they just split that $25,000 plus administrative costs.
Correct.
I had the conversation with her of, what if we go ranked choice, but then we don't have 3 candidates in a race, and it's really just a normal election. She had said she wasn't comfortable with likely wasn't going to be comfortable with lowering the cost for us again because she'd have to up the costs on the other cities. She did say that there was a potential of looking at reducing some of the administrative side, but that was still up in the air on if they would be able to do that, and that we should go into this process knowing that we're going to pay the full cost regardless of the amount of candidates we have.
My rebuttal to that is, are they going to put, if there's only 2 candidates, so there's not ranked choice, because we paid for the system that does the graphic, are they still going to put our vote into that system? If the answer is no, then I don't really, that paying for that is kind of a weird, I get why she would say, I wouldn't charge them, but it's like, it's literally a software use, right? So that's kind of a weird thing to me that if they won't put us on that software use, they'll put us on the other one, and then charge us for the use of the software.
Well, we do have some precedent for that. Last cycle, our mayor's race was ranked choice, and then your race and my race weren't. So our race we weren't on the ranked choice voting, simulation.
But that's what the added cost is for, for that simulation.
Well, that's another story. I don't agree with those costs, but the county clerk is in a better position to determine those, I guess, but I don't understand them. Either way, if you do a traditional vote or a ranked choice voting, when you mail your ballot in, that the clerk's office opens them and tabulates them, whether it's ranked choice voting or not. So I don't understand the additional costs. It seems like it should be 1-to-1.
I'm not the county clerk. I'm probably not going to speak to this very well. Again, in my conversation with her, it was that the software that they have to purchase to use, that it didn't appear to have to do with the cost of mailing or opening a ballot, that it was a difference in software that they use, and they were going to pay that cost regardless. And I'll just say, I get the frustration too. It probably actually makes me more hesitant. If she were to say, yes, we'll not charge you, it probably makes me more hesitant just in the sense of, what if another city entered in and then they didn't get it, and then they came back and said, hey, Midvale, you're going to have to pay way more than you agreed to? I would not be happy about that.
Correct. And the $25,000 is a licensing fee, and so they have to pay that no matter what. If one entity uses ranked choice voting, they have to pay that. So that is passing those costs along to those that use it.
It just seems to me that, the cost is 25,000 for that software, but if one city participates, then the cost is 36,000. So I don't understand why that's not 25, and then if two cities participate, then it should be 12,500.
Well, and from what the mayor talked to the county clerk was that the administrative costs, and I do not know what those all entail.
Yeah. That's a shame. I mean, it's not a shame that you don't know that. I just mean
Right.
It doesn't make sense. I mean, either way, they're opening ballots and tabulating them.
Right, yeah.
That's their job.
Why is it more if they do it with ranked choice versus the
I don't-
traditional?
oh,
I
no one
understand.
will ever be able to explain that to me, so it's not your fault.
Thank you. But what I did find out was that the actual costs for the 2021 election were $28,537, but they had billed us only for $20,389 because that was the not to exceed amount. So it was considerably higher than what we ended up paying.
You said 28,000?
28,537, yeah, for 2021. So before you is what the cost is. I have reached out again to the recorders. A lot of them are still in the process of deciding which way they're going to go. I've heard in Salt Lake County 4 no's and 1 yes, but I do know, and that's from Mill Creek. And that I do know that Salt Lake City has also said they are going to use ranked choice voting. I have not heard of any other entities.
Well, if we decide to, then that's 3, and
Correct.
South Salt Lake seems to be the logical 4th. So my educated guess is that there will be 4.
I'll just add that after the last council meeting, it felt not 100% clear if this council was ready to take action on this, but I think we had a little bit of different interpretation. So I told Rory, let's throw it on as an action item, and then if the council chooses to table it and say we're not ready,
Right.
it doesn't have to be decided tonight. But since we had talked about it at the last council
Correct.
meeting, we decided let's put it on.
Correct. We will find out more. There's several that had meetings coming up within the first part of April because we have to let them know by the first part of May. So if you wanted to wait for another meeting or 2, we can do that. Totally up to you.
Any comments, questions, discussion from the council?
Just using history as our guide, 4 years ago, Councilmember Brown and I were not up for election, and this came up. Councilmember Brown and I supported ranked choice voting at that time. We waited, we tabled it, and then it became too late to opt into it. So I wouldn't be in favor of tabling it again, knowing that we've done that in the past, and then it just became too late for us to opt into it.
Yeah, I mean, it's clear what I would prefer to do, so I'm fine making a decision tonight. I don't know if there's more, I don't know if more information will help or not, in this thing, but.
Okay.
I don't know about the other council members, if they want to wait or not.
I'm good to vote one way or the other.
Okay, well, I would entertain a motion either way for if anybody would like to make one.
Before we do that, there was one point that I wanted to make, and that was the biggest issue as a candidate. We have to worry about our voters. Obviously, they're the ones that are going to be presented with this the most, but also there will be at least 3 candidates, I'm hoping, who will run in the next election, and maybe more. Those candidates need to also understand, what we decide here tonight is, they need to understand the rules of ranked choice voting. I think one of the ways to help with that is, for some reason or another, when you chose ranked choice voting 2 years ago, you had to extend the deadline of registration to mid-August, which I don't think is a good idea at all. I think that we should maintain the original June dates of declaring your candidacy and allowing voters that extra time to meet those candidates, because it is a very compact race to go from August to November versus, June to November. Those extra 2 months are critical because, so just from my experience, I knock doors until it's election day. So, going from mid-August to November, you have less warm months. So it's uncomfortable to be out there. Basically, once you set the clocks back and it's dark by the time it's 5 o'clock, it's a little uncomfortable for everyone. So I think that if we are able to choose ranked choice voting, but then also choose that earlier filing period.
I don't know you can do
I
that.
don't know that you can do that because it is that's what they adopted with ranked choices. The filing period is August 8th through the 15th.
I guess for me, I would just, if there's folks thinking about running, I would say I would encourage them to get out, and I know.
Sure, start campaigning now if you want to.
That you can start campaigning before you actually file.
Sure. And that's great, but it's with any other deadline, that's just how the adult mind works, I think. So if the filing period is in August, people are going to start campaigning in August when they file. But is there any way to get a definitive answer?
I can definitely do that, yes. If you wanted to wait until the next meeting to make the motion, I can definitely find out if we can have the June filing deadline.
Well, we could still make the motion because
yeah,
I don't
way.
think that would.
Not really
I don't think
matter.
that would sway Dustin's opinion on ranked choice voting.
Okay,
Maybe.
absolutely. Go ahead.
And I do have an answer for you, Councilman Gettle. So state law says that it sets the filing period, and the declaration has to be no sooner than the second Tuesday and no later than the third Tuesday in August. So we have a 1-week window to set the filing deadline.
And it's August?
Yes.
Well, I wouldn't want to rattle the state in their infinite wisdom.
So, I mean, that's one of the reasons I don't like ranked choice voting, is for that exact reason, is that I don't think the citizens get enough time to hear the candidates. Obviously, yeah, you can go out sooner, but that probably is not going to happen. Because people are, like Dustin said, they're last minute, they come and file, and then they get out and go. But the citizens just don't have enough time to hear from all the candidates. It's just, and then I'm an old person, and
no, you're not.
Well, I'm young compared to some, but I've had lots of complaints last time that did not understand the system. And we talked an awful lot about sending out and doing advertising and explain how it works, but that didn't get to a lot of them. So that's my reasoning. As far as running, if I run, I don't care. I can run either way, but I just don't think for the older people that it's the best to do it that way.
We did spend $15,000 on education last year, which I would at least spend that again and possibly more to try and educate better.
And I can empathize if someone voted a certain way for 40 years or so, that it's challenging. And it took me 5 or 10, I think Dustin sent it to me at first, and I'm like, this is weird, right? But then once you sort of dive into it and go through it, I think the solution there is, if you do it enough, they'll get it. And I think people can appreciate the idea of, the person with greater than 50% ends up winning, right? Where we've had mayor races here where there's been, the primary where the first and second got like 30% vote each, right? And that really upset a lot of people because at the end of the day, they're like, I could vote for this candidate that got like 31% of the vote, or this candidate that got like 28% of the votes, right? Because those are the ones that went on to the general election, where everyone else liked essentially the other 60. The 60% preferred the other. It would have made a very different change to who our mayor was. It might have been. I might not have been elected either, to be honest. I won by 9 votes, I think. So, I'm not saying it would have even worked out for me, but I just think once you grasp that concept that, out of the range of people you're picking, you get the person that gets 50% or greater wins, and that just seems like that fairness I like,
I'm sorry, Mayor. Change is very hard. I hate to admit that I was actually around doing elections when it was a paper ballot, but I was. And going into the electronic was really difficult. Going into vote by mail was really difficult because people just don't like change.
Did people, were people worried or complain when it went to the mail-in the first time?
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is different?
Oh,
you know?
absolutely.
And,
So,
yeah.
so you were talking about those, I've been 55 years of doing it the other way, so, well, not quite, because I did do ranked choice the last time.
Which I can empathize. I can totally understand why that would be a change.
And I'll just say, for my own personal opinion, I know I said this in the last council meeting too, so often we find the state telling us what to do, and this is one opportunity where they're actually saying, hey, we're going to give you the opportunity to let us know if you're interested in choices. And I think the more that we can send the message to the state of, you got to work with us, give us the choices, don't just hand us down what you want to see, is better. And so this is where I'm fully supportive, at a minimum, getting through this pilot program and showing the state that, yes, continue to give us choices.
Like, for example, how we operate a police department.
That's a really interesting and timely example.
Mayor, I agree with what you said. My one and only concern with this is, big proponent of ranked choice voting, as all of you know. However, if we do ranked choice voting, and it seems like maybe we'll do it again in 2023, but caveat was, at the state legislature this year, it was, within a hair's breadth of being canceled for any city this year. I mean, that bill could very easily have come out of committee and passed. So I would just hate to do ranked choice voting and then, have the state take it away from us. Also, I would hate to do ranked choice voting and then maybe we decide tonight to not do ranked choice voting and then do it again. I think we need to set a policy that is perpetual until another council comes along and either overturns the decision or the state does. But I don't know that having this discussion every 2 years is very beneficial. It kind of creates the doubt that we're trying to not have amongst our voting population.
And as Rory said, though, no matter what we get comfortable with, there will likely be some other new
Well, yeah, there was
change,
that person who came and talked about a third voting system that I had never even heard of. It was like, remember that?
Mhm.
Ranked choice voting, but something else. I don't even remember. But yeah, those are my final thoughts on that. We just need to stick to one or the other, or scrap it all together and never talk about it again. But it's, I think it's those people who doubt ranked choice voting, if we keep having the discussion, do we want to do this or don't we want to do it, it just lends credibility to, oh, look, even they can't make up their mind every 2 years. So
I would agree with you that having a policy in place that says this is how we're going to do it. But again, I think for now, just proving that we have to even convince the state just to allow us to make that decision long term. So,
Well,
but again,
no. If you're ready for a motion.
I am.
Okay. Mayor, I move to approve resolution number 2023 R11, selecting the election method of ranked choice voting for the 2023 municipal election, and authorize the mayor to enter into an interlocal cooperation agreement between Salt Lake County Election Division and Midvale City for election services.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on that? Rory, will you call roll?
Yes, Councilmember Robinson.
Aye.
Brown.
Yes.
Gettle.
Yes.
Sperry.
Aye.
And Glover.
Nay.
Thank you.
Okay, that does pass. Thank you. Moving on to item 3C, consider resolution number 2023 R12, authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement between Midvale City and Redevelopment Agency for the design, installation, and maintenance of a mural in connection with the Mural Festival on the northmost end of the east-facing wall of the City Hall building. Cody.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, council members, for your time. Lovely evening. So this is to consider entering into or approving a term sheet whereby the city will allow the redevelopment agency to basically procure artists and have them prepare a mural, and then have that mural go up during the mural festival this year. I think it would send a really good signal to the property owners up and down Main Street that the city is invested in this and is willing to even put its own wall up there for beautification. And especially looking towards just the south of us, we have the county building, the senior center, and I've gotten not a yes 2 years in a row from them. And so I'm really looking forward to hopefully sending them a signal that this is something that the city really, really supports, and hopefully getting a mural on the south-facing wall of their building next year. But the selection process is such that a committee of 6 people will come together, look at all of the the artists that have thrown their hat in the ring. To this point, we have 50, and last year we had, I think, close to 120. So the window's not closed yet, so we're still getting lots of artists applying, and right before the deadline is when you really see a surge and a lot of artists apply. So the committee will sit together, look for artists that are specific to the wall, in this case the city hall's wall, right there, and we'll select, as long as we have enough applicants, 2 artists that we think would do a fantastic job, and then have the city council and mayor decide which artists they like better, looking at their portfolio and what they've done in the past. And then the chosen artists will be invited to put together a rendering, a rough draft of what their mural would be, and then city council and mayor are able to provide feedback. Hey, this is perfect. Hey, this needs to be adjusted. Or you could just say, nope, this isn't going to work. Scrap the agreement. But if we do have a rendering that we're good with, then it will go up during the week of Mural Festival, which is the first week in June, and the first full week in June. And then the redevelopment agency would be then responsible for the maintenance of the mural, and it would stay up for at least 3 years. And then after that, we would enter into another agreement if you wanted to have a new mural placed over it. And so,
Cody?
Yes.
Can we add in, as far as the maintenance, if the RDA can afford it, because I always talk about this, lighting it?
Yes,
especially
absolutely.
This one, since it's on our city building. I would like it to be lit for as long as possible.
Yeah, the mural's definitely going to be lit.
And that'll be right across from that new development, right? Those condos that are being built right there. Yeah, I think lighting it would be very much an important step in this.
Absolutely. And in the lighting and streetscape study right now, that lighting specific murals where it's going to be is also a priority. If you're interested, that next slide has the location of all the murals on Main Street right now. There's, I think, 21 of them. And this is the locations, or potential locations, where murals will be going up for this coming mural festival. So lighting is a key element, and I know you've talked about that before, and murals that we have right now. And so
is that the side of the old fire station, that one right there, close to Smelter Street?
No, that one is it's close to it. It's the side of Gerhard Cole's building. So as you're driving in, that I think he's a civil engineering.
I just wonder if the north end of the old fire station, that whole wall, because it's a long hold, and could ever have one while we're waiting to decide what to do with it.
Yeah, that's definitely an option as well. So, but if there's any questions about the process or any elements of the term sheet, but yeah, we can definitely add that in as well. That lighting will be a consideration, that the RDA will consider lighting it.
I have a couple of thoughts. For the Overstock mural, there was that committee, which I was a part of, that chose the mural there. Since this is going to be on our city hall, it's not going to be a selection process like that, is it?
I wasn't in that selection process, but I can tell you.
It was just like community members.
There's going to be 3 community members and 3 redevelopment agency staff. So one of the community members is a Midvale resident that participated in the mural festival last year. So they're an artist and they're resident of Midvale. And then 2 of the members are business owners on Main Street. And then 3 city redevelopment agency staff.
So they'll narrow it down to a few options, and then the final selection will be made by whom? Okay.
Yeah.
That's
So
what
we'll provide you with 2 artists that we think these are, of all the ones that we've looked at, we think these are the best fit for that wall.
And I don't want to be like, we have to approve all murals, we're the council, you know, I'm not that kind, it's not Dirty Dancing, like we're banning dancing in the town limits or anything. I'm sorry, Footloose.
I was like trying to draw that connection. I was like,
Footloose,
how can I
not
that
Dirty
mural?
Dancing. But I think because just the nature of this one being on City Hall,
yes,
we have had some controversy of others picked. So I would like the decision on the City Hall mural to rest with the City Council.
Yes.
So I'm glad that that's already been considered.
Yeah. So there's 2 decision points. There's which of these 2 artists do we prefer, and then there's the rendering that will be presented to you, and you'll approve it, send it back with notes, or just flat out
and
reject it.
then most importantly, the rendering that we approve, that's what's going up on the wall with very little deviation unless
Correct.
there's an artistic liberty that they take, which is not a boob or something that might be construed
Or
as such.
child's arm. Cody, can I be on the committee? Is there room?
Yeah, we can figure something out. We can definitely.
Are you guys okay?
Well, if
I
we're
just
vote-
volunteered myself.
If we're voting on it in the end, I mean, do you want 2 votes?
Well, I would like to see all the options. You know,
Yeah,
right?
we can definitely involve you.
That would be helpful too. No, you know, I don't have any problem with, you know, Councilmember Brown being on it, but if we could be included, you know, in that process, when we have like 6 or whatever, if we can see those as well, you know, I would like to not be like, I don't think all of us need to be on the committee, but I would like to just see how it's progressing.
Sure.
So I like this idea a lot.
It's a lot. It's because when we had 120, I mean, Kate put together a PowerPoint that was 1 slide for each artist with, you know, their renderings that they had done, or not renderings, but, you know, their portfolio, and it's a lot to go through. It's a lot to kind of synthesize, but yeah, we can definitely.
And then is the
involve you as
long-term
much as
plan to
possible.
branch out, you know, past Main Street? Because, you know, I love Main Street murals, but there are places in close proximity, like even the Overstock one, which is not far away, but, you know, I think even more throughout the city, just, you know, it doesn't necessarily concentrate people just to Main Street. You know, then they have to go to State Street, and Paul will put one on his business if you want. But is that the overall plan in the future, is to, you know, branch out into other parts of the city?
I do see concentration specifically in Main Street, and I do know that we have prioritized money for art in the Bingham Junction and Jordan Bluffs project area, but east of the freeway, I can't really speak to that. So,
but if we had a State Street project,
if we had a State Street project area, yeah.
Okay.
We do. Sorry. We did. The council did set aside some public art money for the rest of the city, and I do have staff working on what that looks like, whether that's murals or other things like art boxes or sculptures or other things. We are looking at that. There's sort of limited funds, and we kind of want to put them in different places, maybe State Street, maybe up in the Fort Union area, and kind of had this sort of idea of branding some of those up in the Fort Union area a little more Midvale centric, so that we're kind of, you know, claiming the Fort Union area a little bit with some of our art. But that's something that's in the works, and we're just working through that.
Okay, great.
I'll just add that my question was also going to be, what checks do we have in place for the art? Been very supportive of even our controversial art that we have on Main Street, but being on our building, we're definitely going to be held more accountable for that from
Yes.
our residents for anything. So I agree with Councilmember Gettle's sentiment on and appreciate the work that you've done to already try to ensure that. So thank you.
Yeah, I know a lot of the comments I got were the city's paying for this, so if we're putting our money into it, especially on our own building, we need to be very careful.
Agreed.
Okay, with that, to my understanding, we do need to suspend the rules for this, but I would entertain a motion.
And that's why Keith wore a tie, so we could suspend the rules for Cody.
Not for him.
Mayor, I move that we suspend the rules and adopt resolution number 2023 R12 and approve the term sheet for the installation of a mural on the north end of the east-facing wall of City Hall.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Rory, will you call roll?
Yes. Councilmember Brown,
Yes.
Gettle,
Yes.
Sperry,
Aye.
Glover,
Aye.
and Robinson. Aye.
Okay, that
Thank you.
passes. Thank you. All right, item D, consider resolution number 2023 R13, authorizing the mayor to enter into an amended and restated agreement with Bowen, Collins, and Associate for professional services.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. Midvale City and Bowen and Collins and Associates first entered into an agreement for professional services back in April of 2005. Bowen and Collins has since then provided numerous services for Midvale during the term of the original agreement on a task order basis. As nearly 18 years have passed since the original agreement was executed, the parties now wish to maintain their contractual relationship by replacing the original agreement with this amended and restated agreement for professional services. The amended agreement continues the existing relationship between the parties and updates the insurance requirements, rebalances liability and
Indemnification.
Thank you. Obligations, and provides a new dispute resolution process. In accordance with Midvale City procurement policy, this agreement is being brought before the council for consideration of suspending the rules and authorizing the mayor to enter into the amended and restated agreement with Bowen and Collins and Associates for professional services. This agreement carries no fees or fiscal impact with it. Work to be done will be done under individual task orders for projects that the mayor or that the city can accept by authorizing Bowen and Collins to proceed. The task orders obviously will be subject to this agreement. Staff recommends approval of this resolution, and again, ask for you suspending the rules so you can take action on it tonight. Do you have any questions or concerns I can help you with?
What services do they provide? It just said generally like engineering services.
They basically deal with our sewer and storm drain projects. We've had them work on basically sewer and storm drain design projects that we've built over the years.
Okay. The only thing that jumped out at me was that it changes the dispute resolution process. What is it? What was it, and what is it going to? And have we had to use the dispute resolution process with them before?
We have never had to use it. Garrett could probably speak to what it was and what it is.
So there wasn't a dispute resolution process before, which essentially meant we went straight to litigation. The new dispute resolution process tries to slow both parties down and then progressively work through that. So I think it starts with good faith negotiations, then it goes to a mediation.
Okay.
And if we still can't resolve it, then we go to litigation. And then if I can just add, Keith has been very patient and helpful with this process, and this got dropped on him at the last minute because we received Bowen Collins' permission to sign off on the agreement that we'd been negotiating over several weeks. So I appreciate Keith being willing to get this in front of you guys so that way we could get it back to them quickly. Part of the reason it's coming before you as well are these individual task orders themselves are generally less than $100,000, but as our procurement code requires, over the term of this agreement, we anticipate that the total expenditures will be in excess of that $100,000. So that's why it's coming to you tonight for your approval.
Thank you.
Questions, comments? Otherwise, I entertain a motion. And just a reminder, we do need to suspend the rules on this, as I'm sure we're all aware with the tie.
Mayor, I move that we suspend the rules and adopt resolution number 2023-R-13, authorizing the mayor to enter into an amended and restated agreement with Bowen, Collins and Associates for professional services.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Rory, will you call roll?
Yes, Councilmember Gettle.
Yes.
Sperry.
Aye.
Glover.
Aye.
Robinson. Aye. And Brown.
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Thank you. We've got 2 discussion items tonight. First one, discussion and review of RFP submissions for the audit services. Mariah.
Good evening. So we determined last year that we needed to go out for an RFP for our audit services. So we put together an audit RFP and posted that from January 3rd to the 24th on SideQuest, our where we post all our RFPs. In the end of that, we received 3 proposals, one from HMBE, one from KCHM, and one from Larson and Company. The staff assessed these proposals against the criteria that were put forward in the RFP. They were assessed by Susan, our procurement officer, Karen, our treasurer, myself, and Nate, our assistant city manager. The criteria that the staff assessed the proposals against were qualifications, approach to examination, background, time, and price. But the reason this is coming to all of you is, per our training last time, is that this decision falls to the governing body. And so I do need to make one correction from my staff report. What I noted as the fiscal impact was for a 7-year contract, but per the state auditor, we will be doing no more than a 5-year contract. And so the range is really from $135,500 to $174,500. That's the fiscal impact of a 5-year contract, not a 7-year contract. So basically, I just need to know if you guys had time to review these proposals, if you need more time to look at the proposals, the staff assessment of what they provided per the criteria, or if you have a decision, I can bring it back as action next time. If you have questions for me, if you need to discuss it.
My one and only question is this.
Okay.
I forget what it was. The thing, I don't know what you guys called them, but the training videos that you had us watch in the workshop, one of the things that they mentioned was periodically changing the company or the group that does your audit due to familiarity and they really like you, so they're gonna not be so harsh. Are we considering that same group that has, as far as I've been here, they've always done our audits?
Yeah, so that is up to you guys. And we can't really control who puts in for the RFPs, right? Mm-hmm. And so our pool is pretty small. They are one of them. I can say at least that they have changed pretty often who the finance director is in the last few years. So I've only worked with them for a year, as well as all of my finance staff is new. So I think that familiarity is there's a slight less risk of it because of that, but that doesn't mean that we don't go with one of the other options if that's a concern for you guys.
But it's fair to say that they would likely be chosen, if not for like one of us or more than one of us saying, hey, let's try to go with another group this time.
Not necessarily, because the way we're supposed to look at an RFP is looking at not with our past experience with them, but what their proposal is. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if you looked at our assessments, they didn't get the highest by staff in all of the areas that we looked at in the criteria either.
do you have a recommendation?
You can look at our scoring. I think Larson and Company came out slightly on top.
So the recommendation is the highest scoring one?
So I can't make a recommendation. This has to be your guys'. It's a really weird thing.
Is this the only time you're not allowed to do that? Because I feel like we always say, hey, what?
Yeah.
We might not take your recommendation, but tell us what you would.
And that's why I talked to the state auditor about this specifically, because it has felt like a weird process, right? We're here to be the matter experts and give you advice, because you can't be a matter expert on everything. But because they're evaluating myself and my staff, I can't give you a recommendation.
You cannot.
Yeah, so what he said we can do, staff management.
All right. Sorry. I'm sorry, I didn't realize it.
Can't.
I get it.
But he did say that the way that we can, give that expert opinion is by giving you our assessments of how they've rated against the criteria, though you should probably do your own reviews.
I just think it's just hard because I'll speak for myself. I don't really understand this other than what they do, right? So I have no expertise on, hey, like these guys are good to work with, not great, good to work with, or whatever. And so normally we have like resolutions with proposed, like, hey, this is one. So it'll be an interesting experience for us to come to a conclusion without that.
So if you guys, I think there's two options. I don't know that you realized that was the onerous of this decision, because this is our first time doing it, right? So I can bring this back as a discussion item again next time after you've reviewed things, or as you've all individually reviewed. No, probably that's right. We bring it back as a discussion next time for you guys to further discuss and come to a decision on then what I would bring back as presented the contract with the selected auditor. The
only thing I thought was weird is I didn't realize before that it was a several year thing.
So it is the contract is for 1 year, and then we can choose to extend it.
Okay.
Yeah, up to 5 years.
But that's on us. We can make that decision then.
Yeah.
As long as we notify them.
Yeah, the contract that's included with the RFP and the agreement is that it's a 1 year contract with a choice to extend on our part.
If I just looking at these, I know this has been mentioned to the council once before, but I believe it's HBME.
HMBE. Yes.
This says HBME.
Okay, well, I may have wrote it wrong. I'm doing handwritten notes, so.
They were the second highest on us, but I think it's important for this. I know staff needs to be careful about giving opinions here, but I think it's important to keep in mind that right now we're working through some of these issues that we have found with Unified Police, and that they had an audit with some findings, but that was.
Okay, sorry. The thing I'm gonna say, and then you can finish that thought is, we really do need to focus on the materials that they submitted and not bring other things into it. So I'll let you finish that thought, just in case you were about to push what we were about.
Well, now you've got me. Yeah.
It's complicated.
I saw some concerns at UPD and would think that it gives me caution here.
You need to assess them based on the criteria, but that assessment I don't think means you have to make your decision fully based on their proposals.
Because that seems like a good, what the mayor is trying to say seems like good information to know.
I agree.
No offense.
It's just the procurement piece of it is it has stricter rules, and like because we've presented this RFP as this is what we will grade you on these criteria. Then that's.
I would recommend maybe at this point, it's good that we've talked through what the auditor is requiring. We're trying to walk through that it's important that you guys go through these and sort of, you can use our numbers as a sort of a reference, but that you look through those. We'll have a further discussion, but it is just a reminder that there is difficulty in also going through these things in a public meeting and talking about these issues because we're trying to also follow procurement. This is the thing that fits into this category because the auditor makes us not be able to give those specific recommendations. And I get why it's confusing, but we also need to be careful that we're following procurement rules even as we're discussing it in the public meeting.
Having said that, all of the ones I've gone through before, and I've gone through 3 or 4 of these happening, it's always been the audit committee that has given the recommendation.
Yeah, so this was a complicated, so I haven't been through one, and I think that there was best practices, but I didn't realize until after staff had made our assessments. I just knew it had to come to you guys. They just came out with the administrative rule that is like management cannot be involved. What?
Well,
yes. Yeah, that management cannot.
Well, I understand
make
that.
decisions.
That's the way it was always been.
Yeah.
But the way, and again, I don't know if this is the way we ought to do it. I'm just saying in the past, it's the audit committee went through each of the applicants and then came back to the council with a recommendation.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean the council even has to accept that. It's just that that's the way it is. I've seen it done, and whether I'm right or not, I don't.
I think that is one. The administrative rule states that the governing body has to make the decision, and so I just thought I'll bring it to you guys. 2 of you are the audit committee anyways, and so we can move forward that way. If you guys would rather the audit committee, it's been kind of.
I'm not saying which way we ought to do it. I'm just saying that's what's happened in the past. Yeah.
Can I just say, looking through the material and going through the training that you made us go through.
The state auditor made you do that.
They did stress the fact that it was important to change auditing groups. And as long as I've been here, which is only 5 years, so 5 cycles of audits, there's always been Larson and the same gentleman presenting the findings, to the point where if I didn't read through it, I know the structure that he's going to go through. I'm familiar with, how he's going to structure. So I think we might want to consider the fact that we might be a bit too comfortable with that group. And going through here, I'm seeing the KCHM not only being $40,000 less, the criteria 1 qualifications, which to me seems like it should have a pretty heavy weight to it.
It does. I think it's 35%.
Yeah, so the qualifications, they match Larson and Company. Some of their other numbers are lower, but again, I would assume that qualifications as an auditor would be the most important one of those criteria. So my recommendation would be to choose that one based on the fiscal aspect of it being, considerably less, and being a separate set of eyes that, aren't familiar with the folks here and and heeding the state auditor's advice to change groups. Does anyone know how long we've had Larson? I know it's been 5 years at least. I don't know how long.
Some 5 to 7 is what comes to mind, though I don't know for sure. Does anyone else have any other comments for this discussion?
So you said that they weren't ranked number 1, but they are ranked number 1, right?
No, I said they barely beat out
Gotcha.
HBME or HMBE. I really don't. I'm sorry. That's confusing.
Yeah.
Between my
okay, I
notes and-
see what you're saying. Yeah,
Yes.
you're right. That is what
in
you're
the
saying.
overall score.
Yeah, I'm okay with the KCHM or Larson and Company. To me, those are. I don't think we need to go with the most expensive one if the qualifications are also a lot lower, according to this ranking system. So I don't know. I don't know how we're gonna do this.
Well, so you guys can fill out. You can do your own. That's why I gave this blank statement. So you could do that for these guys. So that's pretty technical, but you're welcome to do that.
Mariah, would you come to the next council meeting with an action item on this thing, or an agreement with whichever, if this council gave enough direction tonight?
Yes, I can do that.
I guess I've heard 2 KCHM. Is there
Would be a third on that.
Is there anybody who disagrees with that? I think you have your direction for the next council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Glad we came to that informed decision all on our own, independently.
I was gonna say that.
All right, discussion, item B, discuss opioids settlement with Allergan, Teva, CVS, Walgreens, and Walmart.
Thank you, Mayor. So the Utah Attorney General's office reached out to me within the last couple of weeks and has noted that, again, local municipalities in Utah are being contacted to join a settlement offer that's been negotiated by the county or by the state, and they're hoping that the counties and local governments will join them. This is similar to the same agreement that was entered into in 2021 with Johnson & Johnson and some of the other related companies dealing with the opioid information in your packet about how that will be, what the settlement amount will be. So the higher the participation by political subdivisions, the higher that money will be that will be allocated to the state. Under this agreement, because the state and the counties, at least in Utah, are the ones who provide services, that money will get split 50-50 between the state and then those 29 counties here in Utah. And then my understanding is it will be further divided based on population. So Salt Lake County, for example, probably has the most to gain with this allocation for services that will be given to Salt Lake County. Unlike previous national settlements, thinking of like Philip Morris and the smoking, the tobacco industry settlements, there is already a memorandum of understanding in place between the state and these companies that if the settlement is reached, that the money has to be allocated to opioid related types of treatment, things along those lines. So this is simply to present this offer before the council. The trade-off for us joining is meaning that it would be that we would release all future claims related to the opioid epidemic with these companies. As a city, we're currently not participating in any of the litigation. Again, even if we did, it would be difficult where we don't provide opioid-related treatment as a city to be able to show what type of damages or remedies would be available to us. And so that's part of the reason that the Attorney General's office is reaching out to us is if we can participate, our local community and state will be benefited indirectly from the resources given to Utah and the participating counties.
Real quick, how, I remember asking Lisa the same question, but as you can tell, the answer hasn't taken up space. We being a city, a rather small city in the county, if we get some sort of money from this settlement, say $100,000, how would we spend that, being like we don't have any programs that are city-sponsored that deal with opioid addiction?
And for us, we wouldn't receive any of that money. We're not eligible under the settlement agreement because we don't provide those services. So that's why it's being split 50-50 between the state and the counties, since they are the ones who provide those services currently, whether some of it is for pregnant women, for children that have been affected by some of the various syndromes due to their parents being addicted. Some of it is for incarcerated people. Some of this is for people being treated for their addiction.
So by signing on to this, we're just helping the county potentially receive more funds to do that work.
Exactly.
It seems like a strange way to go about it, but
Seems this is very government-y.
Government-y, for sure.
Because we're not really a party to this agreement.
Well, this is not government-y as much as this is, these companies don't want to enter into some sort of settlement agreement and then have a bunch of new plaintiffs sue them. So their goal is anyone who can claim any sort of damages from a community level, their hope is to get everyone on board with the one settlement, and then they're not having to negotiate out or deal with multiple hundreds, thousands of different litigation.
So if the county was the sole decision maker, then individual cities could say, hey, wait a minute, we never agreed to that, and X amount of Midvale residents died of opioid overdose.
Yeah, potentially. So even right now, the state and 27 of the 29 counties in Utah are all involved in their own individual cases against these companies. And so their goal is to consolidate everything into one settlement, reduce their liability as much as they can by eliminating the people who have standing to bring suits against them.
Any other discussion?
Well, I think it's whatever we can do to maximize the amount of money that the county gets.
Is there
Seems like a
any
no-brainer.
Is there any reason we wouldn't want to do it?
I can't think of one. I mean, just the amount of money and resources that would need to go into this to litigate separately, in addition to the fact that because we don't provide these services, the likelihood of us really recovering pretty much the energy to put in it. But ultimately, that's your decision.
I think it's fine.
Sorry, Garrett, I have a question. Does any of the activities at the road home qualify for the little medical place here on Main? Do they qualify for any of those treatment opportunity monies?
I don't know specifically in their instance, in the sense that the information that's been made available by the Attorney General's office, and that's publicly available on the Memorandum of Understanding, talks more generally, because these funds haven't been allocated, about the type of treatment and the type of services that will be provided if the settlement goes through. But it does talk about providing medication-assisted treatment, pregnant and postpartum women, neonatal abstinence syndrome, warm handoff programs, prevention programs, treatment for incarcerated populations, syringe service programs, and other types of things, and then it goes on with other approved uses. So not knowing specifically what types of programming are going on at the homeless shelter or here at the clinic, I don't know for sure whether that they would be captured by that. And based on what I'm hearing, it sounds like at the next meeting it would be appropriate to bring an action item with a resolution approving this. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up, we do have a closed session tonight for the discussion of the character, professional competence, or physical or mental health of an individual. Before I ask for a motion to go into closed session, Garrett, I do have a question for you. I was in a UFA meeting earlier today where we did a closed session, and they right in the motion just said, we'll just adjourn right as we close out closed session, so we don't have to come back into open and then close out. I know that I've seen that happen before. Is that I'm curious if you're comfortable with us doing that, so that those who don't need to be here, we don't have to worry about getting anything set up, just so we can adjourn.
Give me 1 second. I think this recently came up, and my memory is, what you're asking me is a little bit different than.
Should have asked you earlier, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, give me 1 second.
I'm good.
No pressure. think we can wait until the Draper.
Hear about that explosion?
If it's okay for tonight, if we could just do it as normal.
All right, we're not going to do, since our attorney can't verify right now to make sure we can do that, we'll just do it as we normally do. We've got, nope, missing one, but she's walking in right now. I would entertain a motion to go into closed session, again, for discussion of the character, professional competence, or physical or mental health of an individual.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? Rory, will you call roll?
Yes, Councilmember Sperry.
Here.
Yes.
Sorry, ran as I was drinking.
Glover.
Here.
These are ayes.
These are yeses.
I
am,
sorry,
I
this
am
is to
here
go to
with
the
an
meeting.
eye.
Yeah.
I'm thinking we're already in, okay.
Sorry. Robinson. Aye. Brown.
Yes.
And Gill.
Here, yes.
Took way too long of a break there.
Okay, we are going into closed session and we'll wait. Yep. Just let me know when it's.
I'll say that again. I'm here and I. There we go. Physically.